Hi everyone, I'm Eugenia Woods from the Taproot Alliance. In case you haven't joined us before, we're an organization that offers modern ritual to support people and organizations that are working through complex transitions. We're all engaged with a very challenging transition with regard to the spread of COVID-19 and the social distancing and in many cases sheltering in place that we are having to embrace as a response to the spread of the virus. We're making these videos to offer modern rituals and activities that might support you as we move through these challenging times. Today, we'd like to talk about fear and anxiety, emotions that most of us are feeling much more than we used to, and certainly much more than we'd like. But it's not our intention to eradicate these feelings because they serve an important function. These feelings actually have a protective function that support us in being vigilant in activities such as hand washing, keeping us an appropriate distance from those in our proximity, and taking really good care of ourselves in all the best ways as we work through the challenges of the virus. The problem is when these feelings fall completely out of balance, derailing our functioning, causing a lot of mental angst and confusion, and having a physiological effect such as sleep disturbance, mood volatility, lack of focus and concentration. So our objective is to acknowledge fear and anxiety as it rises, maybe even extending into some proactive measures that will support you in minimizing those feelings through the day, but also addressing them as they arise episodically.
Hi, and welcome to the Taproot Alliance YouTube channel. I'm Eric Carr. Today we're going to be sharing a series of really powerful tools, tips, techniques, and rituals that you can use to help navigate fear and anxiety. As I'm recording this right now, we're in the midst of an enormous crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic. Many of us are dealing with sometimes even crippling fear, and that's natural because none of us have ever been in anything like this before, and these are very uncertain times. Uncertainty is the natural breeding ground for fear and anxiety, and unfortunately, that's just part of life. Sometimes uncertainty is what makes a surprise thrilling, and sometimes it's what makes the unknown terrifying. The important thing is to find ways to navigate this in as healthy and functional a way as possible. So we're going to be sharing some techniques today that don't just work for catastrophes, they work for all sorts of fears and anxieties. I hope you find these rituals and techniques useful, informative, and transformative, and I hope they inspire you to navigate and confront these fears and anxieties in a way that transforms them for you. And I hope you keep this as part of your toolkit so that you can come back to this exercise and all of these tools that we give you over and over again anytime you need to as you transform your fears into serenity.
So the first offering I want to share with you is a proactive measure that begins before we even fully awaken and start our day. So in the morning, as you start to come into waking consciousness, just consider remaining in bed in a relaxed position for a few extra minutes. And through this time, breathing deeply into the heart space and offering a sense of gratitude and deep appreciation for your body. Consider what your body has brought you through in all these years of your life. Times when it has healed itself. Times when it has exhibited incredible strength and resilience. Appreciate the intelligence of your body's functioning, its intricacy, and the ways it supports you in engaging in your activities and endeavors in life. So Just spend about 5 to 10 minutes in the morning starting there and see how it affects the rest of your day. Fear and anxiety can really sneak up on us. They can affect us episodically several times throughout the day and without much warning. Sometimes we're feeling really good and then suddenly we're filled with angst, the mind is racing, we feel sweaty palms, we are unable to focus. So let's engage in a few activities that might support you in coming back into balance and regrounding yourself through those experiences. The first, and I think the most important tool, is to steady your breathing. Some people prefer to use a count to do this, such as inhaling to the count of 4 or 6, holding for a count of 2 to 4, exhaling for a count of 4 to 6, holding for a count of 2 to 4. And if that works for you, that's terrific. Keeps the mind focused on counting and encourages controlled and steady breathing. But for some people, that may make you even more anxious. So it's okay to just hold the intention of slowing and deepening your breath. It's as simple as that. Relaxing into slowing and deepening your breath as it finds its natural rhythm and scope. The use of a mantra can be a really important tool in dealing with episodic bouts of anxiety. Generally speaking, a mantra is a phrase, a short phrase that is repeated over and over while in a meditative state or engaged in a repetitive function. You can utilize a mantra that comes out of a spiritual tradition. There are so many. Or you can make up a mantra of your own. One way of accessing such a personalized mantra would be in a meditation state to ask your body for its own wisdom, words to soothe the body and calm the nervous system, and wait and see what emerges. Distraction can be an excellent tool for dealing with episodes of intense anxiety. As you feel the anxiety rising, you can disengage from your activity and take a break for 5 minutes of intense dance, or a 5-minute run, or some play with a pet, or even just walking figure eights. In fact, the action of walking a figure eight while reciting your mantra will provide a reset both physiologically and cognitively. If there's one thing this virus has taught us, it's that we deeply rely on one another. It's important to provide safe spaces in which adults and children can share their experiences of fear and anxiety. Sometimes naming the experience can diffuse it significantly. One thought is to create a fort and to invite children into the privacy of the fort so that they can share their experience in a closed space, in an environment of love and comfort.
In 2009, I went through a series of extraordinary losses. When my partner at the time relapsed into a major addictions and ultimately ended up in prison, I lost everything. I lost my home, 3 businesses, all of my income, my savings, my retirement plan, and I even lost my mother-in-law, who died unexpectedly that year while I was taking care of her. It was the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life. And one of the things that really helped me get through all of the obsessive anxiety that I had during that time was something I now call the God box. The God box is really just a receptacle where I can place my worries. What I did was I wanted to get all of these obsessive thoughts out. I just couldn't sleep at all. They kept going through my head, and I thought, I kind of know what to do in this situation. If I can get it out of my head and onto a piece of paper, then I can seal it away into a box where it's safe overnight. And then if I want to, I can take it out in the morning and then worry about it some more. Well, it really worked for me, and I didn't pick it back up in the morning. So I turned it into a ritual. I started every night to write down the things that I was afraid of, the things that I was worried about, or eventually the things that I just wanted to pray about. And I put it into this thing that I called the God box. At the time when this first started, I was agnostic. I was going through a spiritual crisis at the same time as all these other crises. Over time, though, it turned into a spiritual practice, and it became a thing where I put my gratitudes as well. It really helped during those times of intense anxiety, though, and it's so easy for you to do. One amazing thing that happened, though, is after about 6 months, I decided to open up my God box and look at all of the things that I had been so horrifically worried about, the things that kept me up at night, the things that caused digestive issues and health problems. And after 6 months, nearly all of them had completely been resolved, with very little action on my part with a lot of them. They had just resolved themselves, or God had done it, the universe had done it, whatever you want to call it. I had already done something similar to this internally for several years. I had what I called my internal sacred space that I would go to in meditation, and in there I had this beautiful receptacle where I would put things that I wanted to remember or things that I wanted to transform in this kind of magical room that I had created in my mind. I was in such anxiety, though, I couldn't get into that kind of a mental space to even imagine that, and it just wasn't working for me. So I needed to externalize this. So I used an actual receptacle, actual paper, and an actual pen. And like I said, I turned it into a ritual that kept changing over time. I encourage you to do this in a way that's meaningful for you too. What really speaks to you? Is it the type of paper that you use? Is it a special pen? Do you want to use a receptacle, or do you want to burn it? Do you want to mail it off to Santa Claus? You can do so many different things. I have had people where they've burned their paper in their fireplace or in a special altar that they put up in their backyards. I've had people bury them or shred them. You can do all sorts of things with this. One person I know even used paper to write it out, and the paper was impregnated with little seeds. They had gotten it at a stationery shop, and she planted it, and seeds grew out of it. And as they grew, the little seedlings digested all of her worries and turned them into beautiful plants. I think that's absolutely awesome. Ironically, with my God box, on December 31st, New Year's Eve, someone broke into my house and stole a bunch of stuff. And one of the things they stole, along with all of my jewelry and a bunch of cash and my car keys, was my God box. It was absolutely incredible to me that someone stole all of my fears and anxieties and concerns for over a year that I had been accumulating in this box. And so I couldn't even go back and look at all of the things that I had written in there at that point. I have no idea what happened to them, and I don't really care. My life is so much better than it was back then. Everything that I had lost, I have received again tenfold at least. And I'm not worried about really much at all because I have ways to deal with it. Now, stuff still happens, obviously. We're in a very trying time. 2 days ago, if I were recording this, I would have been in a much worse place because I really needed to grieve. It's important to acknowledge the fears. Sometimes our fears are truly founded and rational. But when there's something that we can't do about them, if we have no control over a thing, our fear really doesn't serve a purpose anymore. Fear is meant to protect us. It's our friend. But just like some friends, occasionally they're intrusive or they talk too much, and we need to have boundaries around them. And this is a great way to do that. It's also a really great thing that you can do with kids if you have them. Children are extraordinarily imaginative when it comes to this kind of thing. And so you can do all sorts of things with kids and their God box. And again, make it what you want it to be. You don't have to call it a God box. You can call it anything you want to. It doesn't have to be an actual receptacle. But whatever you do, make it right for you to get your fears outside of your head, outside of your body, put them on paper, and then do something with them to give them away for a time being or forever. Fear is a feeling state. It's a necessary one. Like I said, it's our friend, and it teaches us not to walk off cliffs or stick our hands in the fire. It's a necessary thing, and it got us to where we are today. We wouldn't be alive if we didn't have rational fear. But irrational fear can sometimes try to hijack us. It's like that friend that doesn't know when it's time to leave or doesn't know when it's time to be quiet and let you talk. So you have to have boundaries around that fear and realize that you are not your fear. Anything you can do to get the fear out of yourself and into the external space is probably going to be pretty healthy for you. One way to do that is to actually imagine it being another thing. It's not you, so what is it? It's a feeling, but our feelings can also be like parts of ourselves. It's not us, but it's a part, and it's doing a job. Fear's job is to keep us safe. So what would happen if you and your kids or you and your friends dialogued with your fears? What would happen if you just pretended like your fear was an actual thing, an animal, an object, a being? Give it a shape. Is it light or heavy? Does it have a face? Is it an animal? Does it have fur? Or is it scales or shiny or feathery? Is it a blob, a ball of light or energy or barbed wire? Whatever it is, just get it outside of you and imagine that it's sitting right there in front of you, and you can have a conversation with it. Find out what it really wants to do. Your fear does not actually want to cripple you. What it wants to do is keep you safe. So how can you tap into that? Can you give it another job? Can you transform it? Make friends with your fear because it's trying to make friends with you, but don't let it rule your life. But even if you can't have a rational conversation with an irrational fear, which may be the case, you can get to the bottom of what is it trying to save me from, and can it actually do that? Just the process of externalizing the fear and separating yourself from it shows you that it is not you. And that's a very empowering place to come from. And while we're listing our fears, it's a great idea to do what I call the Powerlessness Inventory. I learned this from Codependent 12-Step Recovery. In step one of the very first things that I did was write all the things that I was powerless over. At the time, they all had to do with my addicts in my life, and there are many. And I had to write down all the ways I was powerless to change them, all the ways I was powerless over their behavior, all the ways that I was powerless over their ability to hurt me, so many different things. And eventually it extrapolated out into all the ways I'm powerless over so much in the world, because I'm not God. I'm not omniscient, I'm not all-knowing, and I'm not all-powerful. That means I have so many things in my life that I'm just completely powerless over. And if I recognize my powerlessness, I can also recognize that there's nothing I can do about it. So I can surrender. Surrender's not the same as just giving up. It's like a releasing and a letting go, but it's not giving up, it's trusting. I can trust that something out there, something bigger than me, whether that's God, the universe, intention, destiny, the community, the wisdom of my friends, whatever it is, my higher self, something out there that's bigger than me is gonna take care of me through this. Because I can't take care of myself except in the things that I can actually do that I have power over. I'm powerless over the weather. I'm powerless over other people's behaviors. I'm powerless over the economy. I'm powerless over so many things. And writing down all the things that I'm powerless over, not only is it a good reality check, but it's a signal to myself that I don't have to carry these things because I can't. They're not mine to carry anyway. Again, surrender and letting go are not the same as giving up. You do have all sorts of power. So when you figured out what you're powerless over, you can better figure out what you can do. How can you take care of yourself? Because that's what you really need to do during this time.
It's my contention that we each have resources far beyond our understanding and awareness. Let's tap those resources, those known to us and those unknown to us, and access the part of ourselves that knows how to deal with us. That internal guide, that inner knowing that helps us navigate the most intense challenges of our lives. Let's access that on a daily basis and allow internal wisdom to guide us in ways we may not have ever imagined before.
So once you've gotten those fears outside of you, there's a super powerful tool that you can use that's borrowed from neurolinguistic programming, or NLP. And that's going back to a state where you felt like you had power, like you had strength and mastery over a certain situation, where you knew what to do to rise up and greet the challenges that were facing you with success and preparation, with all the tools that you needed to have. We've all been in that situation before. It doesn't matter if you have to go back to 3rd grade to a math test or if it's something that just happened yesterday. All of us have the experience universally where we really rose up to the challenge, where we really felt confident, secure, even if it wasn't safe. We knew what to do in the midst of a challenge, and we nailed it. So how can you get into that state? It's really easy, actually. Whenever it's safe and appropriate, just take some time to sit and be comfortable, maybe put some headphones on, do something where you can be alone and undisturbed for a little while. Close your eyes, take some deep breaths to really center yourself. And then in your mind's eye, imagine a time where you really rose to the occasion, where your strengths came out, where your skills were useful, where you had creativity, the organization, or whatever skills you needed at the time, and you were able to tap into those natural abilities to answer your own questions, to take care of yourself in a really profound way, and maybe take care of others too. When you get into that state, into that memory, remember it as vividly as possible. Put yourself there in first person. Don't see yourself out there in the distance. See it through your own eyes, as if you're reliving that experience. Hear what you heard at the time. Smell what you smelled at the time. Really be there and remember what it was like to have mastery, to have confidence, to know that you were going to be okay, that you were going to make it through this situation, that you were prepared as much as you could possibly be. Really feel that. And then turn the colors up. Make those colors brighter. Make the image more vivid. Make the sounds, if there are any sounds involved, louder. Make this so real. Take it into technicolor vividness. And then breathe that in. Just take it all in, that feeling, that wonderful feeling. If you want to, you can do what's called anchoring that state by making a mudra and thinking about, yeah, this is how I felt. Or you can touch a specific place, Yes, I remember that feeling. Breathe it into your body. Let it go all through you. And remember what it was like to feel that. And then let it go, and then breathe it back in again, and do it again, and make it feel great. You can do that as often as you need to, whenever you have the time and space to do that, whenever it's appropriate. Obviously, it's not a good idea to do that when you're driving or when you're doing something that requires attention, but it's an easy thing that you can do in little breaks here and there throughout the day if you're starting to feel overwhelmed. Just go back in time. We can all do that. We're all time travelers right now. So get into your mental space, your imagination, and remember what it's like to feel like you have the answers, because you do.
We can't do this alone. We need each other. And for some, there may come a time, a critical time, when one needs to reach out for extra help. I'd like to offer 2 resources that might be useful to you. One is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Disaster Distress Helpline. That's at 800-985-5990 or online at samhsa.gov. Also, you might want to check for resources on the website for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. There are so many resources on their website, too many to name here. Wonderful articles and emotional support lines. So, wishing us all well. Stay healthy, stay connected. Blessings.
In today's video, we've offered a lot of tools that you can do yourself. In next week's video, we've got a powerful guided meditation that we've put together designed to help relieve fear and anxiety. It's called the Daily Force Field Meditation, and it's kind of a mental force field that you can put up to make yourself feel better every day. I used to do this practice every single morning. It was one of the first things I did when I woke up, and it just created kind of a psychic barrier around me that made me feel better and safer throughout the day. So we've brought it back for you. I hope it helps you. I hope all of these exercises today help you, and I hope you stay in health and in gratitude, in love and connection, and all the things that we all need in this world right now. Thank you so much for being with us today. As always, if you find this useful, please share it with your friends, like us, subscribe if you'd like to. But above all, take care of yourself and be well.